Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Nikita Shetty. I am the Vice President of Integrated Marketing for our ads business here at LinkedIn, and I am thrilled to be welcoming you here today. We appreciate you've chosen to spend your time with us, and we look forward to engaging with you in some meaningful conversations related to our business and the industry overall. I believe that you're going to be energized and inspired today. I believe you're going to learn. I believe you're going to have some fun, and I believe you're going to meet Sonam Kapoor. So today, I'm going to talk to you about why now is such an exciting time to be a B2B marketer. I want to ground ourselves in the growth potential of the B2B economy, and I want to start to plan about how we're going to capture and leverage that growth. I know it's a complicated time to be a marketer right now. I, like you, am managing teams of marketers through uncertainty and through the volatility. But this conversation today transcends any moment and any business cycle. And actually, I would argue that the conversation we're having today is more important than it's ever been. Because right now, our companies need us more than ever to drive the next wave of growth and find the next opportunity. To that end, half the global economy is made up of businesses that sell to other businesses. But B2B buying is hard. When companies, AKA complex groups of people, sell to other companies, also complex groups of people, it gets exponentially more complicated than when companies have to sell to individual people. People only buy if they have confidence, and you need to build collective confidence in B2B. And so the conversation today centers on our belief that we have the power to build that collective confidence, that with the right tools, the right canvases, and the right promises, B2B marketing is poised to be one of the most exciting growth stories of the era. The winners of this B2B growth story will be those who can connect with the buying group and build collective confidence throughout the journey, and to do so efficiently and effectively. So, what can we do to be a winner in this new world of complexity? We have to simplify the complex. And how do you simplify the complex? Your own strategy needs to be focused on the unique value that you create for your customer and how you convey that value in simple terms to build collective confidence among the whole buying group across the whole buying journey. Don't just focus on the features of your product. Focus on the promise you are making to the customer. That is how you convey customer value in a way that is simple enough to build collective confidence among a complicated buying group. In the 2011 Hollywood movie Moneyball, Jonah Hill's character, based on real-life baseball analyst Paul Podesta, delivers a monologue that is as relevant to marketers today as it was to baseball players when it was originally delivered to the Oakland Athletics manager Billy Beane in 2001. I recognize baseball is not the most popular sport here as it is in the United States, but stay with me because there is a relevant message here. He says, there's an epidemic failure in this game to understand what is really happening. And that leads the people who run Major League Baseball teams to misjudge their players and to mismanage their teams. People who run baseball clubs think in terms of buying players. But your goal should not be to buy players. It should be to buy wins. And in order to buy wins, you need to be buying runs. Podesta went on to reinvent the way baseball teams picked players using this totally different frame of view. What does this have to do with marketers? Well, there is an epidemic failure in our industry to understand what is really happening. And this failure does lead to people who run marketing budgets, especially B2B ones, to misjudge their campaigns and misinterpret their outcomes. The point of marketing investment should be to build mental availability across buying groups so that those groups develop over time a sort of collective confidence in a product. Collective confidence is what happens when potential buyers have a general awareness of the brand and understand the problem it solves. But many people who run B2B marketing budgets think that marketing is about buying engagements and buying clicks. To misquote Jonah Hill's character, the goal for marketers should not be to buy clicks. It should be to buy collective confidence in our products. And in order to buy that collective confidence, we need to buy the memory structures that connect the buyer to the brand. We already know that if a brand isn't already in people's minds when they enter a buying process, it will not make the day one shortlist. As results from a famous B2B buyer study by Bain have shown, 90% of buyers who go through the whole buying process, including discovery and evaluation, eventually choose a vendor from that day one list. If you aren't on that list, you are not going to be chosen. And unlike a personal purchase, which ultimately has to be agreed upon by just one person, B2B buying decisions are dispersed, complex, and professionally consequential. Making or recommending the wrong purchase decision has career-limiting outcomes. Because of this, the tendency to make a safe group decision versus a novel one is very strong. This behavioral bias, or loss aversion, exposes unfamiliar brands to a much deeper degree of skepticism and interrogation than ones that a buying group already feels comfortable with. It's not surprising that the best B2B tagline, that never was, is "Nobody ever got fired for buying IBM." There is safety in numbers in choosing a brand that many others have already chosen, hence the asymmetric value of being a category leader. Having collective confidence in a product is a big step towards de-risking the purchase decision because it reduces anxiety. If you want to build collective confidence in your brand, you have to communicate the value it creates for the user in a low cognitive load way that can be understood by people who are only vaguely paying attention. The best achieved is by making a promise that your customers value and understand. To build collective confidence with B2B buyers before they begin a buying process should be the ultimate objective of every B2B marketing strategy. That means focusing on memory structures and optimizing for the kind of promise that cuts through. If we want to de-risk the B2B buying process and navigate the complex buyer group landscape, we have to reinvent B2B marketing so that the collective confidence is the outcome. And we won't do that by harvesting clicks. We have to stop buying players and start buying runs. So let's talk about the promises we have to make in order to build this collective confidence. And to do that, I want to tell a story from a long time ago about a B2B marketer who went on to change the world. So let's go way back in time. It's 1773. The setting is a coal mining county of England, and our hero, young, ambitious engineer, James Watt, has just made an important invention to a big problem. But he has another big problem. James Watt has developed a new steam-powered engine that's going to make the mines run safer and run better. And this steam engine is amazing. It drains the floodwater from the mines much faster than the horses that the miners currently use. And in doing so, it makes the conditions much more tolerable, and it saves the lives of people who are working underground. But when James goes to pitch his idea to the miners, they don't understand it. They can't picture it, they're scared of it, they don't trust it, and they opt to stick with the horses. James Watt has a marketing problem. So, James Watt makes a second amazing invention, and he invents the idea of horsepower. Now, of course, there aren't horses running in his steam engine, but by talking about horsepower, James Watt helps miners understand the promise of his steam engine. It can do the work of 10 horses, and they're willing to give it a try. So James Watt understands something that I think B2B marketers are still trying to understand even today, that great technology has to make a promise that's easy to understand and relatable for a few people who will buy into it. Horsepower was a concept so big and so easy that it gave birth to the Industrial Revolution and powered a century of change. That simple promise has lasted over 250 years. So just like James Watt, the great marketer who built products, we know today knew that a great product is not enough. Great products need great promises. I think you're all probably familiar with this iconic ad, but did you know that the MP3 player had been available for a decade before the iPod came to market? Technology wasn't new, but the promise of 1,000 pop songs in your pocket was a promise that everyone could understand. And there are great examples of B2B promises that have been made. When Google CEO announced distributed computing technology back in 2006, it was an incredibly complex technical achievement, and you basically needed a PhD and an Advil to understand it. But by calling it the cloud, he helped everyone picture the promise straight away. People could stop attaching to where the server was and instead get excited about the promise and the imagination of cloud computing, cloud access, cloud storage. So here's the challenge. There aren't enough great B2B promises yet. We've all been taught, myself included, to be a lot more comfortable talking about product features than about product promises. When we go to choose a chocolate bar, we're presented with 5 or 10 chocolate bars. We don't choose our chocolate bar based on the features, but we think that B2B buyers do. Coke doesn't market itself as sweet, brown, and fizzy, but if B2B Coke were a B2B product, I have a funny feeling that that's how it would show up in my feed. So let me ask you something. If James Watt had promoted his steam engine based on features, do you think the miners would have gone for the 33,000 foot-pounds of force per minute machine and taken a chance on something new? Products alone do not build emotional connections. Promises do. Products don't speak directly to customers. Promises do. And products don't build lasting customer relationships, but really great promises do. Our latest research presented at Cannes this year has shown that if you have a clear promise to a customer, a brand promise is not enough. You need to articulate it in your message as a clear promise of value to the customer in a language that the customer can understand, and in ways that are memorable, valuable, deliverable. If your advertising conveys a clear promise to the customer, the difference in business results can be amazing. 56% of award-nominated campaigns that use a clear promise to the customer increase brand health versus 37% that did not make a clear promise. When it comes to driving long-term sales growth, that difference is 67% for customer promises versus 33% for those with no clear promise among award-winning campaigns. If your promise becomes your strategy, it is what unites every part of your organization along the increasingly B2B buyer journey. What's the difference between a brand and a brand promise? It's a really great question. At our company, we defined our brand as every touch point someone has with our product and with our experience. And every one of our teams and every employee owns some part of our brand. Our promise is a very specific thing. It summarizes and communicates the value of our brand to our audiences. It needs to be memorable, it's valuable, and it's deliverable. And because of those things, and I think this is really important, your customer can use it to understand your motivations. That is how you build trust. The promise of the brand then becomes the thing that everyone can wrap their head around at your company, and everyone is on the same hook to deliver, from the CEO down to your customer service representative. The product team knows what promise their product needs to deliver against. The sales team knows what promises they can make when they're in the room. And we as marketers, we know our job is to tell the world about our promise through every touch point and experience we create. For marketers who want a career that is transformational, our challenge is, how do we build those next generation of iconic brands? And while the brands of the last century were all consumer brands, when we look at the next generation of economic value and where that value creation is coming from, we see a future that is B2B. There is a whole generation of new companies at the intersection of cloud computing, big data, machine learning, engineering. Those companies don't sell the French fries or the chocolate that we love to indulge in, but quietly, in the background, they're rewiring how we work and how we live. B2B businesses are leading new emerging categories, categories that play in our cloud, fintech, hardware, process automation. For marketers, these new B2B categories are where the economic growth is going to come from. These businesses are growing fast. They're hiring the most in-demand talent, and they are reinventing our world. Out of the 10 most successful IPOs in 2021, all but one were pure B2B play. These companies are still learning how to make the right promises to the right customers, but as they do, they're delivering growth, they're delivering results. So I'm not saying that B2B brand building is easy as B2C. For one thing, it's harder to reach the buyers and those who influence them because traditional media channels don't reach them as efficiently. And secondly, We don't understand the buyers of a CRM system or a workflow process automation tool in the same way that we understand someone who buys a car or buys shampoo. But that's changing. If you just look at our platform, for example, you can reach all the buyers in a category, you can understand their intent, and you can build relationships with them over time. And the power of creativity in B2B is just beginning to be unleashed. We B2B marketers are finding ourselves proving that we are just as sexy as B2C, and now is our chance to show that to the world. You all made the choice to be here, and I think it's a good one. As you can tell, we think there's a huge opportunity for the marketers in this room to create economic value in B2B. B2B sales adds up to over $9 trillion a year, and the biggest B2B categories are already biggest than the biggest historic CPG categories, and they're growing faster. And now is the time that our customers are looking to us to capture the opportunity and drive growth in ways we haven't before. So these numbers are powerful, but this conference isn't called B to the numbers. It's called B to believe. We could have called it B to better, B to bigger, but we didn't. And we didn't call it B to bottom of the funnel, or B to ROI, or B to minimizing your cost per lead. We called it B to believe. And that's because of what we all have the power to do. We all have the power to make promises that the customer believes in and puts them at the center and cause them to care. And I believe that collectively, the people in this room will create economic value, will create new opportunity, will create new jobs, and do some of the best and most important work of your careers. I believe it, in fact, be to believe it, and that's the promise I hope that all of us take forward today. Thank you so much.